Shalom and welcome to Jerusalem Studio. Today we are going to discuss a very burning topic, if I may, the aspiration by Arab and Muslim countries through American support in the United Nations Security Council to pass a resolution which, according to the statements delivered, including by the United States under the current administration of President Donald Trump, will pave the way for Palestinian self-determination and statehood. Prime Minister Netanyahu has responded by saying that it's not going to happen. And in today's discussion, we will try and deliberate the viability of this reality, including whether or not this can happen in a framework that would provide Israel with the security necessary, and whether or not the Palestinians actually want statehood at this point in time. To deliberate all that, I'm joined here in the studio by my good friend and mentor, General Gershon Ha-Cohen, formerly the commander of the defense colleges in Israel, as well as an Army Corps commander, and much more. It's a pleasure having you here.
Good to see you.
Let's start with Palestinian statehood as a notion. Is a Palestinian state within the boundaries that the international community aspires to create, so to speak, defensible from Israel's perspective?
Just absolutely not. And we must just follow the cluster of reasoning of Yitzhak Rabin when he came with goodwill to Oslo Accord, to that process. He insisted about three principles. One, that Jerusalem will be undivided with all the surrounding of Jerusalem in order to make Jerusalem a metropolis, not just a small city at the end of the road from Tel Aviv. Second, he insisted that Israel must keep the Jordan Valley as an isolation territory in order to isolate Israel from all what's going on in the eastern Jordan River, including Jordan, Iraq, Iran, etc. Could be also troops of the Houthi from Yemen or from Afghanistan. Without that territory, that isolating Israel from all that region, we can find foreign troops from Iran or from Turkey even at the border of 67 border, 15 kilometers from Tel Aviv. No way to defend Israel in that occasion. The last principle of Yitzhak Rabin was that insisting to create by goodwill what could give the Palestinians self-determination, but not an absolute sovereign state. A lot of calculation coming from that, for example, who will be responsible to the electromagnetic spectrum, who will be responsible for the air, whether airplanes can really come to land in Ben Gurion Airport if they cannot just make the circle around territories that belonging to the West Bank. And therefore, he declared that the Palestinian entity will be an entity less than a state. It doesn't mean that it is not enough for the Palestinians, as they are insisting that it is not enough, but he gave them all territories that are the cities in West Bank with absolute self-control of the Palestinian Authority. It means that at the moment this agreement came to be accomplished, 90% of Palestinians have not been any more controlled by Israel. Since January 1996, they are controlled by Palestinian Authority. And if you are just looking upon a map, maybe I don't know whether it could be observed by the screen.
We will show it. Yep.
All the brown side is a necessary territory that remain in Israeli hands, coming from considerations that are necessary for Israeli security. And all this yellow are territories belonging to the Palestinian Authority, and they are really containing most of the Palestinians in this region. The main debate remains about Jerusalem. And everyone coming to study Jerusalem today can just study that no way to divide a metropolis of million people, million residents, not regarding traffic considerations, not regarding other considerations like hospitals, places for walking, no way to divide this city to be a capital of two states. And everyone must just come to study the conditions, the circumstances. Once I came with a British general at the year 2000, times that Ehud Barak, Prime Minister, came to a negotiation with Arafat in Camp David, United States, and Ehud Barak agreed to divide Jerusalem.
96%.
Yes. And I asked this British general, I told him, you are absolutely experienced from Belfast. And I just took him to an observation position to observe the north of Jerusalem. I told him, this is going to be Palestine, this is going to be Israel, this is going to be Palestine, this is going to be Israel. How you can really manage the system to control security in such a chaos? He said, indeed, it is absolutely crazy idea. It means that everyone that can speak about it, speaking theoretically, and of course, even by goodwill, mutual and shared goodwill, it couldn't really happen because one manager must take responsibility, considering security, considering logistical affairs, considering plans of building, everything. And beyond that, what we must emphasize right now, to speak about giving the Palestinians a Palestinian state in 67 border, including Jerusalem, after what happened in 7th of October, it is just to make them in an absolute victory, to bring them the victory forever. It means that the Hamas that opened the war and all those who led that war will be considered more victorious than Salah ad-Din. Sinwar, for example, will be extra Salah ad-Din. It means that we are giving prize for terrorism. It will just create more and more a motivation to fight against Israel, to defeat it absolutely.
This would be a precedent. Excuse me. A precedent for the entire world.
Absolutely.
Because what this basically insinuates by the countries of the international community, as we know it today, that armed conflict pays off. If prior to October 7th, the notion that was fought against in Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, that territorial gains cannot be made through armed conflict, this is going against that notion.
Exactly.
And the paradox here is quite astounding because people don't seem to get that. And at the same time, you're looking at a scenario in which you're saying, okay, we want to resolve this decades-old conflict. The ongoing violence directed at Israelis, the ongoing challenges perpetrated in this context, just they're not sustainable. But to come and propose a solution that does not solve anything,
Exactly the opposite. It is
it perpetuates the conflict.
to come to a fire with gasoline.
Right. So, what is the disconnect? And where can we reconcile between an aspired, it's somewhat woke, an aspired solution to an equation that does not provide the results to what it should be? In other words, they determine that 1 + 1 is 3 rather than realizing that 1 + 1 is 2.
More than that, they must considering the impact of what they are doing. If, again, we are examining what was the idea of Yitzhak Rabin when he was absolutely brave to give the Palestinians what was already given to them.
Which is self-governance, just for the sake of our viewers, because many people have a misconception here. Rabin never agreed to a Palestinian state.
Yes.
There was nowhere in
As
the
I said,
Oslo
a
Accords.
state, an entity less than a state.
Right.
But he had in mind a hope for shared goodwill. We are giving something in order to give you part of your dreams, to fulfill them, and we must get something as well, to get security, to get peace, to get a real coexistence between the Palestinian entity and the Israelis people. What's going on now? Exactly the opposite, because by declaring by British, by United Nations that they are recognizing Palestinian state, it was unconditional.
Right.
It means they got it without any obligation to give something in replacement.
But what did
They
they
got
actually
what
get?
they really deserve to get. And now let's speak about the following, whether they live in peace or not. And more than that, speaking about two states living side by side together in an everlasting peace, and these two states will be viable states geographically and economically, there is not at all a place for two viable states. The Palestinians are absolutely dependent upon Israeli economy, upon Israeli water, upon Israeli electricity.
But so are the Jordanians.
Yes, but let's speak about what's going on from the Jordan to the sea.
Okay, go ahead.
And it is not, and it will never be a viable state because it is too narrow geographical conditions to create two states. Mm-hmm. Even if we are looking upon Cyprus, that was divided by the Turkish occupation, they are quite viable due to the fact that geographically it is an island, and all two parts are with access to the sea. Here, they are not with access to the sea. Not Gaza, yes, but now we have to speak about the connection between Gaza and Judea and Samaria. And it is not at all simple to give them geographical connection upon Israeli land. More than that, according to all what we learn in the last 30 years, there is not at all a basic proof for believing that there is a goodwill in the Palestinian side. It was absolutely confirmed by the behavior of Arafat, that after Camp David in the United States, he opened a war, a new intifada in 2000, that took more than 2 years. And even now, the Palestinian Authority cannot really fight against battalions of terrorists in Jenin, in Tulkarm. The IDF must do it. without doing that by our own hands, Tel Aviv could suffer much more from terroristic attacks as it happened 3 years ago. So it is not at all something that we can trust it. Therefore, if we are speaking about security borders, paying attention to the new development in warfare, new development of weapons, speaking about the promise that this state, the Palestinian state, will be demilitarized. No one can really inspect that, because today, even my cellular phone is a weapon at the moment it is coming to be in contact with a charge in the street.
Right.
So it is part of a weapon. A lot of other new weapons, like drones, I can buy them for civilian use. They are not at all considered as military weapons.
Yet.
But anyhow, it is
Right.
used for civilian
It's dual use,
duties.
so absolutely.
So no one can really promise a demilitarized zone if they will be equipped with these new weapons that can really create strategic effects. So it is an empty concept, the idea of a demilitarized territory or demilitarized state, due to the fact that today we must not only pay attention to inspect artillery or tanks coming from the Jordan River and the bridges, that we can really create control and inspection. We cannot control every missile that is smuggled in trucks of rice or something like that. And just what happened in Gaza is a lesson for everyone, speaking about the possibility of creating a promise of demilitarization.
So let's talk about the broader challenges, because you mentioned correctly during the Oslo Accords and from mid or latter 20 or 1996, when the Palestinians gained pretty much control, type of sovereignty over much of Area A and B.
B,
in
for
mixture.
everything, not including
Administrative,
security,
right.
it is absolutely Palestinian.
Correct. So according to the Oslo Accords, just for the sake of our viewers, there are three areas A, B, and C. Area A includes Palestinian Authority control, both administrative and military. B is administrative control, but Israeli security control. And C, where the majority of the population is Israeli, is both Israeli administrative as well as security control. The situation has shifted over the years, naturally, but nonetheless, the deep-rooted corruption general in the Palestinian Authority has created vacuums. The major challenge, if I may call it that way, is the northern Samaria region, where we do see various clans being bought off by bad actors, namely with chief focus on the Islamic Republic of Iran and its various proxies. And we're seeing this
And jihad and
intensify.
the other.
Well, Palestinian Islamic Jihad is an Iranian proxy, right? So my question here is, in a reality where we're seeing this already happening absent a Palestinian state, what are the guarantees that we can get a reality with a Palestinian state, just hypothetically, where security guarantees are granted to the Israelis and perpetuated?
The only guarantee is a presence of Israeli troops that can guarantee from inside the territory the security of the narrow seashore of Israel, in which most of the Israeli resources, strategic resources, are located. But just speaking about the north of Samaria, Jenin, it is a rich city with an American university with faculty for medicine. Israeli Arabs studying there. Every weekend, Israeli Arabs coming to Jenin to buy everything, and considering economical function, Jenin is more important than Nazareth to the residents of the Israeli Arabs in the Galil. So actually, it is a rich city, and yet full with terror, with katibas, it means battalions of terrorists that Palestinian Authority apparatus, battalions couldn't really succeed to overcome them. Therefore, IDF entered to these refugee camps in Jenin and destroy them, destroy the terroristic groups, not just the city. The city is a very nice city. What is the lesson? That the whole idea that it is just because they are in poverty, we will give them access to prosperity and then terrorism will decline, it is not true. The reality teaching us that in that city, that exemplifying the most rich city in West Bank, the flourishing terrorism much more than in Hebron.
Such an important point. Because the current American equation is let us flourish the whole region with prosperity, which would then translate into security and then would draw in foreign investments, and this will establish some type of kumbaya. Now, that is all good and well, but the fundamental issue here is, and this is something that is probably not in the calculus of those decision makers and strategists.
Actually, it is a main mistake, and it is due to the metaphors that they are worshipping the
golden calf.
Yes.
And that's the point. They are Islamist fundamentalists.
And they are looking to find meaning in their life.
Yes.
And it is, in a way, a message to all human beings in the whole universe. Prosperity in itself, not giving meaning to human being life.
Absolutely. But it comes down again to this. According to the latest data polls indicate that the majority of the Palestinians will vote for Hamas in the event that elections are taking today. But it's even after October 7th.
Yes.
So it means that the majority of Palestinians are on board with the Hamas message and with the Islamist fundamentalism that dictates quite effectively that any former lands that were conquered in conquest and occupied by Islamic armies will remain as such for all eternity. Namely, whatever you're seeing here in the Middle East, it all must remain Islamic because 2,000-3,000 years ago, rather 1,500 years ago, the Islamic armies came and conquered this territory. That's the way they see it.
And this is shared idea by Turkey, by Egypt, by Saudi Arabia. They can make a kind of agreement with Israel just as an hudna. It means an interim
ceasefire.
Interim ceasefire. Let's make business before we will be strong enough and we will get an opportunity to destroy you absolutely. The idea of the Western people is maybe it is like that, but at the moment you will begin to coexist together with the shared prosperity, then they will forget from the dream of jihad. Exactly the opposite.
It's actually briefly a funny story from this morning. I took a cab to the office from a meeting that I was at, and it happened to be an Arab Muslim from one of the villages out on the outskirts of Jerusalem that in 1948 supported the Jewish resistance against Islamic occupation of the land, saying that they're looking at the situation very differently. He is from Abu Ghosh.
Yes.
Now, he said, the only viable time for a two-state solution was in 1948.
True, and you just mentioned Abu Ghosh, the story of Yitzhak Rabin that he gave an order to his troops. in the battle to Jerusalem to destroy all the villages, including Abu Ghosh. And his troops told him, listen, they are different. They are treating us nicely. And he reconsidered his order, and they remain. All the other villages have been destroyed.
Only later they found out that they were Christians and Cherkessians. But that was a different story.
No, but what is so important to realize is that even voices that are bringing the sound of peace, speaking about, yes, we want to recognize Israel and we can give them peace, they are taking the two-state solution idea as a proof that they are supporting peace. But actually, they are understanding that two-state solution, but the moment it will be compelled upon the Israelis, it will be just a stage in the way to demolish Israel after. And this is true also about the Egyptians. Sadat insisted in the Camp David Agreement 1979 to 78, 79, that Israel will make all conditions for Palestinian state. Menachem Begin, Israeli Prime Minister, accepted an autonomy. And until now, the Egyptians are explaining the cold peace with Israel by the fact that yet Israel didn't accomplish the promise to build a Palestinian state, and they are insisting it to build it including Jerusalem.
Right.
It means that actually they are aware how it is not at all in the possibilities of Israel, and they are insisting to bring it in order to make pressure against Israel.
Well, we continue to pray for peace.
Yes, of course.
But we do so with clarity about reality and also biblical truths. Well, this is all the time that we have for today. Thank you, General Ha-Cohen. I'd like to thank also all of you at home. Until our next edition. From here in Jerusalem, Shalom.